Step out of the car. That's what Officer Kane demanded when he saw a black woman driving a $70,000 BMW through the richest part of town. He thought he'd caught a criminal, until she opened the door, stood tall in full colonel's uniform, and turned his world upside down. Officer Derek Kane started his shift with a chip on his shoulder and a mission in mind. Riverside District, the city's wealthiest neighborhood, was his so-called hunting ground. He'd been told to keep the area safe, but what that really meant was keeping outsiders out. Kane prided himself on his instincts. He could spot someone who didn't belong from a mile away. And today, he was hungry for a big arrest. His department had been pushing for more stops, more tickets, more proactive policing. Kane took that as a green light to follow his gut, even when it led him into gray areas. He scrolled through last week's arrest photos on his phone, mostly black and brown faces, a pattern he never questioned. "Keep those numbers up," his sergeant had barked at morning roll call. Kane nodded, eager to deliver. So when he spotted a sleek black BMW gliding through Riverside's manicured streets, his radar went off. Tinted windows, custom rims, and a driver who didn't fit the neighborhood's profile. He followed, convinced he was about to make the bust of his career. Backup was already on the way. Kane was ready to pounce. Across town, Colonel Frances Turner was already up before dawn, lacing her running shoes with military precision. 25 years of service had made discipline second nature. Her morning routine was sacred: a 5-mile run, a quick shower, and a review of encrypted emails from the Pentagon. Today was important. She had a high-level meeting about federal funding for police reform, and later, a base inspection that required her full dress uniform. The BMW in her driveway wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of sacrifice, a gift from her late husband, a Vietnam vet who'd saved for years to surprise her when she made colonel. Every time she slid behind the wheel, she felt his pride and her own hard-won success. She hung her uniform in the back seat, pressed and ready for inspection. Turner was used to being underestimated, but she never let it show. She checked her mirrors, signaled every turn, and drove the speed limit. She had no idea that, just a few blocks away, someone was watching her every move, ready to turn her morning into a test of everything she'd ever stood for. Kane trailed the BMW for 6 blocks, his mind racing with assumptions. "Probably stolen," he muttered. "Or drug money." He radioed for backup, his voice tight with anticipation. "Suspicious vehicle, black BMW, tinted windows, doesn't fit the neighborhood profile. Requesting units at Maple and 5th. The lights flashed. The siren wailed. Turner pulled over smoothly, hands visible on the wheel, every movement calm and deliberate. She'd trained soldiers how to survive checkpoints in war zones. She knew the drill. But Kane saw only what he wanted to see: a black woman in a luxury car, acting too calm for his liking. He approached with his hand on his weapon, backup fanning out behind him. "Step out of the vehicle," he barked, voice dripping with suspicion. Turner complied, her posture straight, her eyes steady. Kane's tone grew sharper. "Whose car is this? How can you afford it?" The implication was clear. Turner handed over her license, registration, and military ID. Kane barely glanced at the credentials, already convinced of her guilt. He was looking for a reason to escalate, and Turner's professionalism only made him more determined. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Turner stepped out of the car with the kind of poise that only comes from years of command. She reached into the back seat and, with deliberate care, pulled out her full dress uniform. The sunlight caught the silver eagles on her shoulders, the rows of ribbons and medals across her chest. For a split second, the entire scene froze. Kane's smirk vanished. The backup officers shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware that this was no ordinary traffic stop. Turner stood tall, her voice calm but unyielding. "Officer, you just made an assumption that will cost you everything," she said, her words slicing through the tension. Kane's hand trembled. He'd expected attitude, maybe even resistance. Instead, he was staring down a decorated colonel, someone with the authority to end his career with a single phone call. The power dynamic flipped in an instant. The body cameras were rolling, capturing every second. Viewers, what would you do if you were in Kane's shoes right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is where the story takes a turn no one saw coming. Desperate to regain control, Kane doubled down. He announced he was searching the vehicle for drugs, ignoring Turner's protest that he had no probable cause. He rifled through her belongings, handling her uniform and medals with careless disrespect. The Bronze Star clattered to the pavement, a lifetime of honor reduced to a prop in Kane's power play. Turner's jaw clenched, but she stayed composed. She mentally catalogued every badge number, every violation, every word. She knew the law, and she knew how to fight back, not with anger, but with evidence. Sergeant Walsh arrived, drawn by the escalating scene. He took one look at Turner's bearing, her uniform, and the chaos Kane had created, and his gut told him something was very wrong. But the blue wall of silence held. No one intervened. Turner endured the humiliation, her dignity intact, her resolve hardening with every passing second. Have you ever witnessed an abuse of power like this? Share your story below, because what happens next proves that documentation and professionalism can be the most powerful weapons of all. Turner requested her phone call, but instead of dialing a lawyer, she called her Pentagon contact. Her words were crisp, coded, unmistakable to anyone with military training. "This is Colonel Turner. I am currently detained by civilian law enforcement. Legal authority questionable. Request immediate command notification." Kane snatched the phone away, thinking he was shutting down a desperate criminal. He had no idea he'd just committed a federal offense, interfering with a military officer's official communications. Within minutes, Turner's call triggered a chain reaction. Base commanders alerted, military legal teams mobilized, and federal oversight on the way. Kane still thought he was in control. But the real power had shifted, and the consequences were about to hit like a tidal wave. At the station, Turner was booked like any other suspect, fingerprints, mugshots, the works. But the atmosphere was different. Officers whispered, glancing nervously at her uniform and the growing crowd of military officials gathering in the lobby. Within the hour, Pentagon lawyers and base commanders arrived, demanding answers. Desk Sergeant Rodriguez's face went pale as he realized who Turner really was. The department's leadership scrambled, but it was too late. The body cam footage was already being reviewed by federal investigators. Kane's confidence evaporated as the truth spread through the station like wildfire. The tables had turned. Turner was no longer just a detainee, she was the catalyst for a reckoning that would shake the department to its core. News of the arrest broke fast. Local media swarmed the station, and within hours, national outlets picked up the story. Decorated Army colonel arrested by police, body cam footage reveals shocking misconduct. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended. Veterans groups and civil rights organizations demanded justice. Federal investigators dug into Kane's record and found a pattern of racial profiling and excessive force complaints. The department's leadership faced tough questions about their training, oversight, and use of federal funds. Turner held a press conference in full uniform, her voice steady and commanding. "This isn't just about me," she declared. "It's about every department that receives federal funding and claims to serve the public. If you can't uphold the Constitution, you don't deserve our support." The threat was clear: lose millions in federal funding or embrace real reform. The city's mayor and police chief scrambled to respond, but the damage was done. The entire country was watching, and the pressure for accountability had never been higher. Kane's career was over. He was fired, stripped of his badge, and faced federal charges for civil rights violations. His personal life unraveled, his family left, his reputation destroyed. The department was placed under federal oversight, forced to implement sweeping reforms, new training, community oversight boards, and strict accountability measures. Turner's impact went far beyond one city. Her case became a national example, inspiring new standards for police conduct and federal funding. A small memorial garden was planted at the intersection where she was stopped, a symbol of change and a reminder of what happens when courage meets injustice. What reforms would you want to see in your community? Let us know in the comments, because your voice matters in this movement for real change. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Every comment helps push this conversation forward. What would you have done in Turner's place? Stay tuned for more stories that challenge the system, because real change starts with you.